U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in New Delhi to co-chair the 5th India-US 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. The talks will be held between India's External Affairs Minister, Defence Minister and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin. The 2+2 dialogue was launched in 2018 to boost defence cooperation and align objectives in the Indo-Pacific region. The dialogue is expected to provide a platform for top-level discussions between the United States and India. Critical bilateral and global matters will be addressed. Special emphasis will be on the developments unfolding in the Indo-Pacific region as well as the Israel-Hamas war. Earlier, yesterday, Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin, who also arrived in New Delhi for the talks. The discussions will now pick up from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's successful visit to Washington in June, as well as President Joe Biden's trip to New Delhi for the G20 summit in September. The U.S. State Department's principal deputy spokesperson also stressed on developing cooperation between India and the United States in the realm of counterterrorism.
Heading to New Delhi as part of the 2+2 security dialogue with Secretary Austin, and so I have no doubt deepening our security cooperation will be a topic that is discussed by Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, and their counterparts in the Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Defense. I will let that trip play out before we share further, but I have no doubt that cooperation, especially in the counterterrorism space, is something that will come up in areas where we can potentially deepen our partnership.
For more on this, we're now being joined by Raymond E. Vickery from Washington, D.C., former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Trade Development and Senior Associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Sir, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
To begin with, sir, what's your assessment of the policy objectives of the United States and India in the Indo-Pacific? What sort of a collaboration are we expecting here?
Well, I think what we'll see in this 2+2, which is the fifth one of these, is a further broadening and deepening of the ties which have been set in motion most recently by, as you have indicated, the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Washington, and then the visit of President Biden to New Delhi for the G20. You may recall that there were announcements of cooperation in production using the GE fighter engines, also in regard to drones, and there is a lot in train in regard to co-production. So I think that those the details and making a reality out of those pronouncements will be a first order of business. Second, I think that what happens in the Indo-Pacific will be a topic of great concern to both sides. China has become even more aggressive, most recently in the South China Sea, vis-a-vis the Philippines, continued belligerence in regard to Taiwan, as well as re-emphasizing that China claims an entire Indian state, Arunachal Pradesh, as well as other Indian territory. The recent investment of the United States in the Port of Colombo seems to me to be designed to counteract the sort of string of pearls approach that China's had. So Indo-Pacific will be a part of it after co-production. But then, of course, we have cooperated on terrorism, and that will be a prime matter of discussion, particularly with a leading terrorist organization, Hamas, having attacked Israel, and now there being an ongoing war there. India is a great nation, and I think that what will be discussed here is how these two great democracies can cooperate across the globe, not just in terms of border protection, but what happens in regard to the Middle East, what happens in regard to Russia and Ukraine, indeed. The United States sees these all as of a piece. In terms of disregard of the rule of law, India has its own perspectives on that, and those will be the matters of discussion, I believe.
All right. Mr. Vikri, in fact, I was just going to come to this counterterrorism. That is one of the key highlights of the agenda. When it comes to counterterrorism, what are your expectations from this dialogue? Also, how prominently do you think Israel and Hamas will feature in these discussions?
Well, I think it'll be very prominent. Hamas is a terrorist organization. They've shown that by what they did on October 7th, killing men, women, children, babies, taking hostages. But there is no question that what we're trying to do in this world is build peace and prosperity. India is situated ideally to be able to play a role in that. India has great contacts not only in relationship with the U.S., but is a leader of the global South, and the Palestinians are part of the global South. Hamas is a terrorist organization, but the people of Palestine, of the Palestinians, need to be able to be brought into concert to fight terrorism, and so I think that'll be discussed.
All right, Mr. Vikri, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your perspective on this.
My pleasure.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.